In a forgotten corner of the 19th century, a man wakes beneath a leaking roof in a city that does not know his name. London, the beating heart of an empire and the graveyard of the poor. He will rise with the dawn, trade sleep for survival, and follow the whistle of a train into the unknown, where men carve the bones of the earth with their bare hands, to build a world they will never ride. Tonight, on Old Worlds for Sleep, we journey back to the age of soot and steam, to the story of those who labored unseen, whose names were lost, but whose rails still carry the dreams of the living. So lie back, close your eyes, and drift into the fog of another century. This is the Railwaymen, a sleep story about endurance, memory, and quiet dignity. The fog lies thick over the cobblestones, curling like smoke between the gas lamps. You wake beneath a broken archway, cold stone pressed to your cheek, the kind of chill that seeps past your bones and settles somewhere deep inside. It takes a moment to remember where you are. Then again, what does it matter? One street is much like another when you have no home. Your breath clouds in the pale dawn. Around you, the city stirs. A carriage rattles past, wheels splashing through yesterday's rain. Somewhere close, a milkman's bell rings, thin and distant. London never truly sleeps. It only shifts, changing from the noise of commerce to the quieter hum of survival. You sit up slowly, joints stiff, stomach empty. Hunger has a voice now. It speaks in your belly like an animal pacing its cage. The last of your pennies went 2 nights ago on a cup of weak tea. You tell yourself you'll find work today, that something will come, though you know the odds. The air smells of soot and damp cloth, the scent of thousands living too close, burning too much coal to keep warm. Your hands are cracked, nails blackened, but the muscles beneath remain strong. Once you worked with pride, lifting, carrying, earning an honest wage. That was before the layoff, before the sickness that took your last job and your room with it. Now the streets have made you into something else, not quite invisible but no longer seen. As the morning brightens, you join the slow drift of men moving westward, all walking with the same tired purpose. You've learned where to go when you need a chance. Covent Garden Market. The foremen there sometimes need extra hands, and even the desperate can earn a penny or two if they look able. It isn't much, but a penny means life. A bowl of soup, a corner of shelter, a little warmth. You cross through narrow lanes, past the smell of coal smoke and cabbage, past rows of windows where curtains twitch at your passing. The respectable Londoners see only what they choose to. A shadow, a nuisance, a reminder of how close their own lives are to ruin. By the time you reach the market, dawn has softened into a gray light. Covent Garden is already alive. The place hums with sound, the slap of boots on wet stone, the calls of sellers, the thud of crates being unloaded from carts. Horses snort clouds of steam. Men curse, laugh, argue. It's chaos, but to you it feels like life. You linger at the edge with the others, dozens of men with hollow eyes and rough hands, waiting for someone to call their name or point their way. You can taste the tension, the silent competition between you all. Everyone here knows what's at stake. Those who don't get work today may go hungry tonight. You keep your back straight, your arms visible, trying to look strong, capable. The trick is to seem eager but not desperate, willing but not weak. Your clothes are filthy, your beard rough, but there's still something in your stance, something that says you can endure. Minutes stretch. Then, through the noise, a foreman's voice barks out orders. His eyes sweep across the line of waiting men. He points. You lot with me. Apples from Kent, needs unloading. Your heart jumps as his finger lands on you. You step forward before he can change his mind. Around you, the unchosen watch silently, envy mixed with resignation. The day has chosen its survivors. Penny an hour, the foreman says. Pay at the end of shift. Keep up or clear off. A penny an hour. Hardly riches, but to you it might as well be gold. 4 hours of work means a night indoors, maybe even food to spare. Enough to fight another day. As you fall in behind the wagon, muscles tightening in anticipation, you realize how quickly hope can grow from nothing. Just a single word, work, and the whole day feels different. The fog begins to lift from the market square. The stones gleam with morning light. Somewhere above the rooftops, a church bell tolls 7. For a moment, standing there among the crates and the shouting men, you feel something you haven't felt in weeks. You feel alive. The market is awake before the sun. Lanterns swing from iron hooks, casting halos of dim light through the mist. Carts rattle in from the countryside, wooden wheels clattering on cobblestones slick with frost. You follow the foreman's shout through the maze of stalls, past barrels of potatoes, heaps of onions, the sharp scent of oranges from Spain. The air is thick with smells: earth, horse sweat, coal smoke, the sour tang of spilled milk. Voices rise and fall like waves. Vendors calling their wares, boys laughing, women arguing over prices. The city may despise the poor, but here, at least for a few hours each morning, everyone needs you. The market depends on hands like yours. The foreman throws you a glance. You stack those crates by the arch, mind the apples, they bruise easy. You nod and set to work. The crates are heavier than they look, slick with condensation, the ropes biting into your palms. You move slowly at first, testing your strength. Then faster, falling into rhythm. Lift, carry, stack. Lift, carry, stack. Your breath steams in the chill air. Sweat beads on your forehead. Around you, men work in silence, the only sound the thud of wood on stone, the soft roll of fruit shifting inside. After a while, someone beside you chuckles. You'll burn yourself out before noon if you don't pace it. You glance over. A young man, maybe 20, grins at you through a missing tooth. His coat is threadbare, but his eyes are alive. Name's Tom, he says. Been at this since I was 12. There's no medal for finishing first, mate. You allow yourself a faint smile. Old habits, you say. He laughs softly. Ain't many of us got habits left. Together you work in silence, side by side. He hums tunelessly as he stacks, a fragment of some street song about sailors and gin. It feels almost companionable, the kind of small comfort you forget you need until it appears. As dawn rises, light seeps through the fog. The colors of the market reveal themselves: crimson apples, green cabbages, yellow straw. The city, for all its cruelty, is not without beauty. You feel the strange pull of belonging, as if the market itself has a pulse and you've joined its heartbeat. At 9, the foreman calls a halt. You wipe your brow with the back of your sleeve. Your hands are blistered but steady. Tom tosses you a crust of bread from his pocket. Breakfast, he says. Don't ask where it came from. You eat it without question. The dry crumbs catch in your throat, but it's food and it tastes of life. You new to the streets? He asks. Not new, you answer. Just still here. He nods, understanding without words. Stick around the garden, you'll manage. Work's never steady, but it's better than freezing. You think of the word freezing and how it feels when the cold climbs inside your bones at night. You remember the way hunger presses behind your eyes until everything blurs. Tom speaks like a man who's lived at the edge long enough to stop fearing the fall. When the shift ends, the foreman tosses you 4 pennies, dull, grimy coins heavy with meaning. Same place tomorrow if you're early, he mutters. You nod. 4 pennies. It isn't much, but it's enough to matter. Enough for a bowl of stew and maybe a dry spot to sleep. You close your fist around the coins as if they might vanish. The market hums on as you step away. The fog has lifted now, and the sun strikes the rooftops in weak gold. Horses clop past, their breath hanging like ghosts. You pause near the fountain, watching a young girl balance a basket of flowers on her head, her voice clear above the noise. Roses. Fresh roses. You remember when your mother sold flowers like that long ago before the city swallowed her whole. For a heartbeat, you almost smell her perfume, a whisper of lilac in the cold air. Then Tom calls out, You coming for soup, mate? You nod, slipping the coins into your pocket. Around you, London breathes, vast, heartless, magnificent. And for the first time in days, your stomach doesn't feel empty. Only your heart does. By noon, the air in Covent Garden grows thick with the scent of ripened fruit and sweat. The morning chill has burned away, leaving a wet warmth that clings to your skin. Your shirt sticks to your back, your arms tremble from the rhythm of labor, yet you keep moving. Work, however cruel, feels cleaner than hunger. Tom whistles as he stacks a crate beside you. His tune falters when the foreman's voice cuts through the market. Move faster. I'm not paying for your leisure. You say nothing. You've learned the tone of men like him, the kind of authority built not on power, but on fear of falling back into the dirt with the rest of you. Another crate. Then another. Each one a test. The rough wood scrapes your palms raw, and you can feel the sting where skin has split. You try not to look at your hands. If you see the blood, you'll start to feel it. Here, Tom mutters, passing you a strip of cloth torn from his sleeve. Wrap it up before it festers. You take it, wordless, and bind the cut. The cloth smells faintly of tobacco and rain. He grins. We're all bleeding somewhere, he says. The day stretches. Shadows shift. Somewhere nearby, a bell rings for lunch, but it isn't for you. The foreman tosses each man a half-penny for a break, enough for a sip of broth or a crust of bread if you're lucky. You spend yours on a tin mug of warm water and sit beside the horse trough. Steam curls from your cup. Across the market, a group of shop clerks pass, their coats clean, their laughter sharp. You watch them without bitterness. They belong to another world, the one with walls, fires, and full stomachs. Tom joins you sitting on the curb. He tears a bit of stale roll and hands half to you. They say the workhouse is worse, he says quietly. You glance at him. You been? Once? Didn't stay. They shave your head, take your clothes, feed you like a child. You break rocks till your back splits. All for the sin of being poor. You nod slowly. You've seen them, the gray-coated men in chains along the road, their faces blank, eyes emptied. You'd rather sleep in the gutter than lose your name inside those walls. A silence falls between you, broken only by the clatter of wagons. You sip your water and stare at the market's great iron arches, the sunlight spilling through in long, dusty beams. The beauty of it feels cruel. It belongs to everyone and no one at once. When the foreman calls you back, you rise without protest. Pain has settled into your body like an old tenant. It will not leave, but you've learned to share space. Each crate lifted is another breath, another proof that you're not yet beaten. By afternoon, the work turns heavier. A shipment of coal arrives and you're ordered to unload it. The sacks are slick and hot, their weight crushing. You cough black dust, your lungs rasping like old leather. Tom works beside you, slower now, his laughter gone. Still you endure, one sack at a time. The rhythm becomes a prayer. Lift, carry, breathe. Lift, carry, breathe. When the sun begins to lower, the foreman calls the day. He counts the coins into your open palm. 4 pennies. The same dull gleam as before, yet somehow brighter. Tom pockets his pay and grins. 4 pennies, mate. Enough to live, enough to dream. What'll you do with yours? You think, a bowl of stew. Maybe a cot at the 4-penny shelter if it isn't full. You've slept standing before, under arches and stairwells, but tonight you crave something softer than stone. Soup first, you say. Good choice, Tom replies, slapping your shoulder. I'll see you at the line later. He disappears into the crowd, swallowed by the maze of stalls and alleys. You stand a moment longer, letting the evening settle around you. The market's roar fades as vendors pack their goods. Pigeons scatter, wings glinting in the weak light. A child's laughter echoes, then dies. The city exhales. You look down at the coins in your hand, 4 small circles of survival. They feel heavier than gold. Each one earned with blood, sweat, and the will not to vanish. The fog creeps back from the river as night begins to rise. And for a fleeting moment, you almost believe you can outrun it. The streets smell of rain and smoke as you leave the market behind. Your muscles ache, but it's a clean ache, proof that you've worked, that you've mattered for one more day. The coins in your pocket clink softly with each step, a fragile symphony of survival. You follow the familiar route eastward, toward the soup kitchen on Drury Lane. The queue already snakes around the corner, men, women, children, all waiting with that same hollow patience. Steam rises from the open window where a woman ladles broth into tin cups. The scent of onions and beef fat drifts through the air. Feels like heaven. You join the line. A boy ahead of you turns, his face streaked with soot. They give seconds if you smile at the lady, he whispers, conspiratorial. You try it. When it's your turn, you offer your best attempt at a grin, and she does indeed pour a little extra into your cup. Bless you, you murmur. The liquid burns your tongue, thin and greasy, but you close your eyes as you drink. Warmth spreads down your chest, slow and steady. For the first time in days, you feel full. Inside the mission hall, benches creak beneath the weight of the hungry. A hymn plays softly from the next room, something about mercy and light. You sit, cradling your bowl, watching the steam twist like ghostly fingers toward the ceiling. Beside you, an old sailor mutters into his beard. Best stew this side of the channel, he says, though there's hardly any meat in it. You both laugh, a sound that feels almost dangerous, like tempting fate. When your bowl is empty, you hand it back and step into the evening. The city has changed again. Gas lamps flicker to life along the narrow streets, their glow pooling in the puddles. Carriages rattle past, splashing muddy water across your boots. Somewhere, a woman sings, a high, lonely sound drifting from an open window. You walk with no destination, only direction. Toward warmth. Toward safety. The fourpenny shelter isn't far, but it fills fast. You quicken your pace, passing ragpickers sorting through rubbish, chimney boys huddled near drains for heat, a blind fiddler playing for pennies. The melody is thin, trembling, yet somehow beautiful. At the shelter door, a man in a brown coat collects the coins. 4 pence, he says without looking up. You press your earnings into his palm, every coin a small surrender. He nods toward the stairs. No talking after lights out. Inside, the air is heavy with damp wool and unwashed bodies. Rows of narrow wooden boxes line the walls, coffins for the living. Each one just wide enough for a man to lie flat. You find an empty one and slide in. The wood creaks beneath your weight. It's warmer here. Not comfortable, but not cold. The sound of breathing fills the room, a chorus of exhaustion. A man nearby coughs endlessly, another whispers prayers. You stare at the ceiling, tracing the flicker of the single oil lamp. Around you, the smell of sweat, smoke, and soap powder mixes into something oddly human. This, you think, is what survival smells like. Beside you, a woman's voice murmurs, low and kind. First night. You turn slightly. In the dim light, you can just make out her face, lined, tired, but gentle. She clutches a small locket to her chest. Yes, you whisper. She nods. It gets easier. Or you just stop noticing. You both fall silent. Her words hang in the air like mist. Somewhere down the corridor, someone begins to snore. Another hums a lullaby half remembered from childhood. The city outside fades to a distant murmur. Wheels, footsteps, rain. You pull your coat tighter and close your eyes. The wood beneath you is rough, the blanket thin, but you've eaten. You've worked. You have a roof over your head, however temporary. In this world, that's enough. The last thing you hear before sleep claims you is the soft creak of the floorboards and the whisper of someone's prayer. And for one quiet night, you let yourself believe that tomorrow will come. Morning comes too soon. A bell clangs harshly, cutting through the heavy air of the shelter. Up and out, the watchman shouts, his boots thudding along the narrow aisle. You rise, joints stiff, muscles burning. The room smells of straw and fatigue. Around you, the other sleepers stir, men, women, even a few children, all gathering their meager belongings before the day pushes them back into the streets. Outside, the cold slaps your face awake. Frost rims the edges of every brick, every lamppost, every window pane. Your breath rises in white clouds as you walk east, the city still half asleep. Somewhere a factory bell rings, and smoke begins to unfurl from chimneys like dark ribbons against the gray dawn. You have 4 pennies again, earned, not begged. Enough for tea and bread, perhaps a few hours in a coffee house to stay warm. But something draws you onward, past the markets and the carters shouting for trade, toward a sound that doesn't belong to commerce, the murmur of a crowd outside a church. A sign by the gate reads, "Charity for the deserving poor." Hot tea in parcels, today only. You hesitate. The word deserving bites like a cold wind. In this city, it never means you. It means those whose misery looks clean. Widows in black, children in rags, but never the able-bodied man with unshaven cheeks and dirt under his nails. Still, the smell of tea is too tempting. You join the queue, keeping your head low. The line inches forward. Ladies in fine coats stand behind folding tables, faces set in expressions of pious duty. They hand out brown paper parcels, bread, cheese, sometimes an apple, each offering accompanied by a measured look, as though gauging whether the recipient has truly earned their pity. When your turn comes, the woman before you pauses. Her hair is pulled tight beneath a bonnet, her lips pressed in a line sharp enough to cut. "You're new," she says. "It's not a question." "Yes, ma'am," you reply softly. "Between lodgings. Working at Covent Garden." Her eyes narrow. "We prefer to help those who are trying to better themselves," she says, as if you'd confessed a crime. Pause. Then, grudgingly, she slides a parcel toward you and pours a cup of tea. 1 packet. 1 cup. Move along. You take them with both hands. "Thank you, ma'am." The tea is hot, sweet, almost unbearably so after days of bitterness. It scalds your tongue, but you drink anyway, savoring every swallow. Inside the paper parcel, you find a slice of bread, a small wedge of cheese, and an apple, bright red, polished, perfect. You save it for later. Stepping away, you find a spot on a nearby step and sit. Around you, others unwrap their parcels, eating in silence. The street hums with the soft noises of chewing, sipping, quiet gratitude. But beneath it all is the same unspoken truth. You are being fed not just out of kindness, but to ease someone else's conscience. A thin man with a gray beard sits beside you, balancing his cup between shaking hands. "Better than nothing," he mutters. You nod. "It's good tea." He chuckles, a dry sound. Charity tea always is. They sweeten it to hide the taste of judgment. You both laugh softly. The sound feels dangerous again, like light in a place that forbids it. Across the street, a group of children chase a hoop, their laughter echoing off the stone. Life continues, heedless of who eats or sleeps. A carriage rolls past, its wheels splashing through a puddle that gleams gold in the morning sun. The world looks almost beautiful from this low vantage point. When the church bells strike 10, the volunteers begin packing away their tables. The crowd disperses, some lingering for warmth, others clutching their parcels like treasure. You stand, brushing crumbs from your coat. The warmth of the tea fades quickly, but something else lingers. A strange calm, perhaps even gratitude. For all its cruelty, the city still gives in its own fractured way. And you, still breathing, still moving, are proof that it hasn't beaten you yet. You walk on, turning the apple in your pocket. Its skin gleams through the fog like a promise. Not of comfort, not of salvation, but of tomorrow. And in this life, tomorrow is the most precious thing you can own. The fog thickens by afternoon, rolling off the river in pale, ghostly waves. It softens the edges of buildings, dulls the clang of carts, makes every figure seem half real. You walk slowly through it, careful of the slick stones underfoot, the apple in your pocket thumping gently against your thigh with each step. London breathes around you, vast, indifferent, alive. From somewhere nearby comes the cry of a newsboy, "Workhouse fire in Southwark. 10 dead." No one stops to listen. Tragedy is as common as coal smoke. You keep your eyes down. The last thing you want is attention. But attention in this city has a way of finding you. Turning a corner, you nearly collide with a man in a dark blue uniform. A helmet glints beneath the gaslight. His gloved hand shoots out to steady you, but the grip lingers too long, becomes something else entirely, a hold. "Easy there," the constable says. His voice is deep, not unkind, but heavy with the authority of someone who can decide whether you sleep free or behind iron bars. His eyes flick over you, assessing your ragged coat, your stubbled chin, the dirt that never quite washes off. "And where might you be heading in such a hurry, son?" You force your voice calm. "To the market, sir. Looking for work." "Work at?" His gaze drops to your boots, cracked and caked with mud. You've the look of one who sleeps rough. "Got any means of support?" You nod quickly, heart hammering. "Yes, sir. 4 pence from Covent Garden. Worked the morning shift." "Let's see it." You fumble in your pocket, pulling out the coins, the precious little you own. He studies them a moment as though they might be counterfeit. Then, with a grunt, he nods. "All right then." You keep moving. No loitering, no sitting on doorsteps, and if I catch you begging, it's a night in the cells. Understand? "Yes, sir." He releases you with a shove. Not cruel, but enough to remind you of the line between mercy and punishment. You steady yourself and nod again. "Thank you, sir." "Off with you then." You walk quickly, resisting the urge to look back, but you can feel his eyes on you until you turn the next corner. Only then do you breathe again. In Victorian London, being poor is a crime without trial. The Vagrancy Act gives men like him the right to decide your fate with a glance. A bed in the workhouse, a cell, or the cold street, it's all the same to the law. As you walk, the city presses in. Posters on the walls promise temperance, salvation, work for the righteous, but never for the likes of you. A man shouts sermons from a crate, his breath turning white in the cold. "Repent, for the Lord sees your idleness," he cries. The passers-by hurry past. You do too. By dusk, the streets have turned gold beneath the lamps. Shop windows glow with things you can never afford: books, gloves, cakes under glass domes. Children press their noses to the panes, their reflections ghosted in the light. You stop just for a moment to look at a display of pocket watches, each one ticking softly, reminding you of time's steady cruelty. A voice breaks your trance. "Move along there." Another constable. Not the same one, but the same shadow of authority. He doesn't even look at you as he says it. just gestures with his baton, an absent flick as if swatting away a stray dog. You nod and obey. You've learned that the only safe way to exist is to stay invisible, to move, to keep moving, to never linger long enough to be seen. By the time night falls, the city feels colder, meaner. The steam from the drains curls like spirits around your ankles. Hunger has returned, sharp and familiar, gnawing at your ribs. You take out the apple from the charity line, its skin still glossy despite the day's chill. You bite into it slowly. The taste, sweet, clean, alive, cuts through the dirt and smoke of London like sunlight. You chew until only the core remains, then toss it into the gutter, watching it roll until the fog swallows it whole. The night deepens. Somewhere, a clock strikes 7. And though you've done nothing wrong, you walk faster, because you can still feel the policeman's gaze following you through the mist. By the time the church bells toll 8, the city has folded itself into shadow. The fog thickens, yellow under the gaslight, the kind that clings to your skin and smells faintly of ash. You've been walking for hours, not toward anywhere, but away from everywhere. Your feet ache. The cold has wormed its way into your bones. You need warmth before your body gives up the argument. On a narrow street off Holborn, you spot a flicker of light behind dirty glass. A hand-painted sign reads, "Coffee and Comfort, 1 penny." It's not the sort of place that promises either, but you push the door open anyway. The heat hits you first, thin, smoky, but enough to make your fingers sting as they thaw. The air inside smells of scorched beans and damp wool. The room is crowded. Men hunched over tin mugs, women with shawls drawn tight around their shoulders, all of them nursing the same cheap salvation. You hand over a coin to the proprietor, a heavy woman with a red face and no patience, and receive a cup of something dark and vaguely bitter. It's hardly coffee, more like burnt water with dreams of flavor, but it's warm. You take a seat in the corner, where the walls meet and the light from the single lamp fades into shadow. Around you, the murmur of quiet conversation fills the air. Words like job, cold, and shelter drift past your ears. There's no laughter here, only the small sounds of survival. The scrape of spoons, the rustle of wet coats, the soft sighs of the exhausted. Across the table, a man watches you. His coat is worn but carefully mended, his hands ink-stained, the mark of a clerk or printer. His eyes are sharp but not unkind. When you meet his gaze, he nods once. "First night out?" he asks quietly. You shake your head. "First warm room in 2 days." He smiles without humor. "Then you found the right place. Warmth's the only thing sold here honest." You sip the coffee. It scalds your tongue, but you don't care. The warmth spreads slowly through your chest. "You been here long?" you ask. "Long enough," he says. 3 months last winter. Lost my position at the printing house when my eyesight went bad. Spent every night in the coffins till I saved enough for a room." He glances down at his cup. "Now I come back sometimes. Reminds me where I started." You study him. There's a steadiness in his voice, something that suggests he's seen the bottom and climbed halfway back up. "How?" you ask. "How did you manage it?" He considers before answering. "Work when you can. Save what you can. And don't drink." His tone hardens a little. "Gin'll take what the streets haven't already. That and find something to hold on to." "Something?" "Something that reminds you you're still human." He reaches into his coat pocket and pulls out a small, battered book. The cover is worn smooth, the pages yellowed. "Poetry," he says, flipping it open. "Keats mostly. Saved my sanity on nights when I thought I'd forget my own name." You look at the book as though it's a holy relic. "I can't read much," you admit. "Doesn't matter." He closes it gently. "It's not the words. It's the reminder that you have a soul beneath the dirt. That there's still something in you the city can't take." You sit with that thought. Around you, the coffee house hums on, the chorus of the almost forgotten. A man in the corner nods off, his head dropping forward. A woman whispers a prayer over her child's empty bowl. You finish your coffee and set the cup down carefully as if it might shatter. "Thank you," you say softly. The printer nods. "We all owe someone a bit of kindness. Just pass it on when it's your turn." Outside, the wind howls down the street, but inside the small, dim room, something like peace lingers. For a moment, you feel almost warm, not from the drink but from the simple grace of being seen. When you finally step back into the fog, the cold bites again, but it feels less cruel now. You have his words tucked in your chest like a secret. Find something to hold on to. You look up at the weak light of a gas lamp, the glow haloed by mist. The night is long and the road ahead longer still. But you walk anyway. Because for the first time in days, you remember that walking means moving forward. By nightfall, the fog has turned from gray to gold, glowing faintly under the lamps that line Whitechapel Road. The air bites at your cheeks, sharp and metallic. The streets are alive in their own quiet way, not with laughter or chatter, but with footsteps. Hundreds of them, all heading in the same direction. You fall in among them instinctively, one more shadow in a river of the forgotten. Men in torn coats. Women clutching bundles that might be blankets or children. Faces drawn and pale, eyes dull from too many hungry nights. You can tell the veterans from the new arrivals by how they move. The old ones silent, practiced, their gait slow and resigned. The new ones glancing around, still uncertain, still hoping to wake from this life. No one speaks. Conversation wastes warmth. The only sound is the rhythm of feet on cobblestones, the shuffle of worn boots, the occasional cough that echoes down the narrow street like a warning bell. It is the nightly pilgrimage of the homeless, the march toward shelter such as it is. The fourpenny coffin house opens at 8. Be late and you'll sleep standing against a rope or under an archway if you sleep at all. You walk with your hands in your pockets, feeling the stiff chill in your fingers, the ache in your shoulders from a day's work. But you walk with purpose now because you have enough, 4 pennies that feel like the keys to heaven. The woman beside you stumbles, clutching her thin shawl. Her face is familiar, sharp cheekbones, eyes that have seen too much. Martha from the 2-penny hangover. You remember her voice, hoarse but steady, singing softly to herself in the dark. She catches your eye, and her lips curve into something that might have been a smile in another life. Didn't think I'd see you again, she says. Got lucky, you reply. Work at Covent Garden. Good for you, she says. Sold my ring today. Needed rest more than memory. You glance at her hand, a pale groove where gold once sat. You want to say something, anything, but the words feel clumsy in your mouth. She shrugs lightly as if reading your thoughts. Metal's just metal. Can't eat it. Can't sleep on it. The crowd moves as one, shuffling forward toward the promise of wooden boxes and thin blankets. The lights of the shelter glow faintly ahead, halos in the fog. The air smells of soot and damp straw, the scent of 1,000 weary bodies that will soon fill the narrow room. The closer you get, the slower the line moves. The watchman stands by the door, taking coins one by one. You hear the clink of metal, the shuffle of boots, the muttered prayers of those still hoping there's space left. Each transaction is a small victory, a bargain with the cold. When your turn comes, you press your 4 pennies into his gloved hand. He doesn't look at your face, only at the coins. Full up soon, he mutters. Lucky you came early. You nod, stepping past him into the dim, suffocating warmth. Inside, the room is lined wall to wall with narrow wooden boxes, coffins in name and truth, each barely wide enough for a person to lie in. Men are already settling, curling into their spaces like creatures burrowing for safety. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, straw, and unwashed feet. But after the cold outside, it feels almost merciful. You find an empty coffin and slide in. The wood creaks beneath you, but it holds. You stretch out flat for the first time in 2 nights, the simple act of lying down almost holy. Around you, voices murmur softly, fragments of conversations, prayers, sighs. Across the narrow aisle, Martha lies in her own box. She catches your eye and gives a small nod. Better than the rope, she whispers. You manage a tired smile. Better than the street. A watchman makes his rounds, checking each box, making sure no one's died yet. The gaslight flickers low, turning faces into pale ghosts. Somewhere near the back, a child begins to cry, quickly hushed by a trembling voice that must be its mother's. You pull your coat tight around you, tucking your arms close. The wood beneath you is cold, but it's solid. Say, for a long moment, you just breathe. You listen to the sounds of sleep settling across the room, the coughs, the snores, the sighs. The orchestra of the forgotten. You think of the printer's words in the coffee house. Find something to hold on to. You have nothing left but this, the weight of your own heartbeat, the fragile rhythm of existence. You close your eyes and the fog of London seeps into your dreams. You dream of warmth, of a bed that isn't rented by the hour, of air that doesn't taste of coal. And though you know the morning will bring cold, hunger, and the endless fight again, tonight, for this brief borrowed moment, you are warm. The gaslight in the coffin house burns low, its dim glow turning the air amber and thick. Around you, the room has settled into a restless kind of silence, the kind made up of half-dreams and weary breathing. A man coughs in the corner, deep and wet. Someone mutters in their sleep, a name that no one answers. The wood beneath you creaks with the shifting of tired bodies. You lie there, eyes open to the faint shimmer of light on the ceiling. The smell of damp straw and bodies fills your lungs, but for once, it doesn't feel unbearable. You have warmth, you have a place. For one night, at least, the city has stopped trying to kill you. Reaching into your coat pocket, you feel the smooth roundness of the apple from the charity line. You'd saved it all day, telling yourself it was for later, for the moment when hunger became too much. That moment is now. You pull it out slowly, careful not to draw attention. Its red skin catches the light like a jewel in the dark. You take a small bite. The taste is astonishing, sweet, sharp, alive. For a second, you're no longer in this room but somewhere green, a memory of orchards and summer air. The sound of birds instead of coughing. The warmth of sunlight instead of human breath. You chew slowly, savoring it. Each bite feels like a rebellion against the world that wants you hollow. Then you notice him. In the coffin beside yours, a boy is watching. No more than 10, though his face looks older, sharpened by hunger, eyes too large for his thin frame. He's curled up tight, arms wrapped around himself, shivering. The look on his face isn't envy exactly, but something quieter, longing without expectation. For a moment, you pretend not to see. The apple's nearly gone and you've earned it. Haven't you? You worked, you bled, you froze. Surely you've earned one small comfort. But the printer's words from the coffee house echo back to you. Pass it on when it's your turn. You hesitate only a moment longer, then hold out what's left. The core with a few small bites of flesh still clinging to it. The boy blinks, unsure. Go on, you whisper. It's still good. He takes it quick, like a sparrow snatching crumbs, and turns away. No thank you, no words. Just a small, desperate motion of survival. He eats it down to the seeds, crunching even the stem. You watch quietly, an ache rising in your chest that isn't hunger. Something else, something heavier, older. The memory of what it feels like to be human. When he's done, the boy curls back into himself and closes his eyes. A faint sound escapes him, not quite a sigh, not quite a sob. You realize he's fallen asleep. You lie back too, staring at the flickering ceiling. The room feels softer now, the noise is gentler. You think of all the people who once helped you. Tom at the market, the printer with his book, even the stern woman who handed you that apple. Each of them, in their own way, passed a spark of something on. And now perhaps you've done the same. Outside, London groans in its sleep. Somewhere beyond the walls, horses clatter on wet stone, and the cry of a distant whistle cuts through the fog. Inside, the boy's breathing steadies. The rhythm of it finds yours, two fragile heartbeats in time. You close your eyes. The wood beneath you no longer feels like a coffin, but like a cradle, a reminder that even in the lowest places, life insists on going on. And as you drift towards sleep, you realize, hope doesn't come all at once. It comes in moments, in a crust of bread, a borrowed word, an apple shared in the dark. The morning doesn't arrive gently. It comes with the clang of a bell and the rough voice of the watchman echoing through the narrow room. Up and out. 15 minutes, move yourselves or I'll drag you by the boots. The sound rips through the half-dreams of the sleepers. Bodies stir. Coughs echo. A few groans rise from the floorboards like ghosts. You open your eyes to the gray light leaking through high, dirty windows. The air is colder now, and the warmth from so many sleeping bodies is already fading. You sit up slowly, every muscle stiff, your spine protesting the return to the vertical world. The wooden walls of your box are rough beneath your palms. Across from you, the boy from last night is still asleep, curled tightly, apple seeds clinging to his cheek. For a moment, you almost hate to wake him. Then the watchman's stick cracks against a nearby coffin, and the boy jolts awake, blinking, terrified. You lean close and whisper, "It's all right. Morning's come." He nods, rubbing his eyes, and slips out of his box like a shadow. You lose sight of him quickly among the others. In places like this, even kindness is fleeting. Everyone scatters at dawn, swallowed by the streets. You stand, stretch, and step carefully between the rows of coffins. The smell of straw and sleep lingers heavy in the air. Martha catches your eye as she ties her shawl tighter around her thin shoulders. "Another day," she says softly. Another chance, you reply. Outside, the morning bites deep. Frost silvers the cobblestones and your breath fogs the air. The street is alive again. The same faces from the night before, now blurred by motion, scattering toward markets, docks, and factories. The sun is a pale coin rising behind the fog, distant and cold. You fall into step beside Martha for a while. She moves slower today, her cough deep and wet. Where will you go, you ask? Try the laundry, she says, voice thin. They always need hands in winter. Pays bad hours worse. But it's indoors. You nod, though the thought of steam and bleach burns your throat even imagining it. Good luck, you tell her. She gives a small, weary smile. You two love. Maybe tonight we'll both earn our Coffin's fare. Then she turns down another street, her figure disappearing into the mist. You watch her go until she's swallowed by London's grey. You walk on toward Covent Garden. The city wakes around you, bakers hauling flour, milk boys rattling cans, newsmen calling headlines into the fog. A carriage passes close enough for you to catch a glimpse of fine boots inside, polished like mirrors. For a moment you see your reflection in the glass, hollow-eyed, stubbled, alive. When you reach the market, the air is already humming. Crates thump onto cobblestones. Horses stamp their hooves. Voices rise in overlapping shouts. Apples, 6pence the dozen. Mind the barrels, lad. The world begins again as it always does. You find the foreman by the same wagon where you worked before. He glances up, recognition flickering in his eyes. Back again, are you? Yes, sir, you say. Good. Could use a pair of reliable hands. Penny an hour. Start now. You nod, stepping forward. The crates are heavier today, or maybe your arms are just more tired. But the rhythm returns, lift, carry, stack. The sound of wood on stone, the grunt of effort, the smell of bruised fruit and cold sweat. And through it all, a strange calm settles over you. You've made it through another night. You found work again. You've remembered what it feels like to give something, even a little. When the foreman shouts orders, you no longer flinch. When the frost bites your fingers, you no longer curse. You move through the day like a man who has decided, quietly, to endure. At midday, Tom appears, grinning through his missing tooth. Knew you'd be back, he says. Didn't think the Coffins would keep you. Couldn't let them, you answer, and he laughs. The sound of it, rough, real, human, warms you more than any fire could. By the time the sun disappears again behind the haze, your pockets hold 4 pennies once more. The same as yesterday, yet somehow heavier with meaning. Because now you know what they buy, not just food and shelter, but the fragile dignity of survival. As you leave the market, the bells of St. Paul's toll faintly through the fog. Their sound carries across the rooftops, deep and hollow. Not a warning, not a dirge, but a reminder. You are still here. You are still moving. And in this city that forgets so easily, that is its own kind of victory. The morning has faded into a thin gray afternoon. The city hums, half alive, half decayed. Steam rises from sewer grates and merges with fog. Somewhere a factory bell rings. You turn down a side street, drawn by the sound of shovels striking stone, a steady, hollow rhythm. At first, you think it's another work gang, maybe dockmen repairing the road. But then you see them. Men in coarse gray uniforms, marked with broad black stripes. Their heads are bowed, movements mechanical, their faces hollow and colorless. They break stones into smaller and smaller pieces, their hands raw, their shoulders stooped. A man with a truncheon stands watch, his gaze cold and detached. It takes only a moment to understand. Workhouse inmates. You've heard of them, of course. Everyone on the streets has. The solution for poverty, Parliament calls it. Shelter and food, yes, but at a cost higher than starvation. Inside those walls, men are stripped of more than their clothes. They lose their names, their freedom, their will. You stand at the corner watching. None of the gray-coated men look up. They work as if the world around them no longer exists, as if the sky and the street and the sound of carriages mean nothing. They are ghosts in daylight, haunting the city that forgot them. The overseer shouts, and one of the men stumbles. A whip cracks through the air, sharp as breaking glass. The sound hits you in the chest. The man doesn't cry out. He just steadies himself and keeps working. You feel a strange heat rise behind your eyes, anger or pity, you can't tell which. These men are you or could be. One bad day, one missed payment, one sickness away. The foreman at Covent Garden had warned you once, better the street than the house. Now you understand why. You step back into the shadow of a doorway, heart hammering. The constable from yesterday passes nearby, his baton tapping against his leg in rhythm with the stone breaking. For a second you're sure he's seen you, that he'll point and say, "There, another idle one." But he doesn't. He just walks on, his figure dissolving into the fog. Still, you can't shake the feeling that you've glimpsed your own future. A version of yourself caught in that gray line of broken men, hammering stones until the day you vanish into dust. You force yourself to move. The farther you walk, the louder the city becomes, as if trying to drown out what you've seen. Market cries, wheels on cobblestones, church bells calling the faithful. All of it layered over the steady echo of that pick-striking stone. You stop at the edge of a bridge. The Thames below rolls dark and thick, carrying bits of refuse and light from the lamps above. A barge drifts past, its silhouette ghostly in the mist. For a moment, you imagine what it would be like to simply step forward, to let the river take you somewhere beyond this endless struggle. Away from cold, away from fear, away from the weight of being poor in a city that despises the poor. But then you remember the boy in the coffin. The way his breath steadied when he fell asleep. The faint sound of him chewing the last of the apple, fast but grateful. You remember Tom's grin, the printer's advice, Martha's weary smile. You're not gone yet. Not while you can still remember their faces. You tighten your coat and turn away from the river. The fog wraps around you like a shroud, but you keep walking, back toward Covent Garden, toward work, toward whatever comes next. Behind you, the sound of stone striking stone fades into distance, but it never really leaves. It will echo in your memory for years, the rhythm of the workhouse, the heartbeat of despair. And as you walk, a thought settles deep inside you, quiet but steady. You'll do anything to stay free, even if freedom means hunger, even if freedom means sleeping in a coffin again. Because in this city, freedom, no matter how fragile, is the only thing that still feels like yours. The next morning begins like all the others, gray, cold, indifferent. Yet something in you feels changed. Maybe it's the memory of those gray uniformed men, or the stubborn throb in your hands from yesterday's work. Either way, when you rise from the hard straw of the four-penny coffin, you move with a kind of quiet resolve. You step out into the morning fog. The street glistens from an overnight drizzle, cobblestones slick beneath your boots. You walk toward Covent Garden through alleys that smell of ash and cabbage, past the sleeping forms of others still huddled beneath doorways. The city looks half dead in the dawn light, its silence broken only by the far-off cry of a costermonger setting up early. When you reach the market, it's already alive. The air hums with movement. Wagon wheels, horses snorting, crates slamming down onto stone. The rhythm of work begins before sunrise and doesn't stop until the lamps burn out. You spot the foreman near the apple stalls, barking orders with his usual impatience. When he catches sight of you, his expression shifts. Recognition, then approval. "You again," he says. "Good. Thought the street might have swallowed you." You nod. "Still standing, sir." He gestures to a wagon stacked high with cabbages, frost still glistening on the leaves. "Then put those hands to use. Penny an hour. Same as before." You roll up your sleeves and get to it. The work feels familiar now, brutal, endless, yet oddly comforting. The muscles remember their rhythm. The pain becomes background noise. As the morning warms, Tom appears out of the crowd. His grin flashes through the fog, gap-toothed and genuine. There he is. Thought you'd frozen stiff somewhere between here and Whitechapel. Almost did, you say. But the coffin house was kind enough to keep me breathing. Tom chuckles, hefting a crate onto his shoulder. The city's full of miracles, eh? You work side by side again, the easy companionship returning like a song you both know by heart. Between loads, he talks about the market gossip, the fights that broke out near the docks, the endless cold that seeps into a man's bones until he forgets what warmth feels like. Then, lowering his voice, he nods toward a group of men standing near the edge of the square. They're better dressed than the porters, thick coats, sturdy boots, a certain authority in the way they hold themselves. "You see them?" Tom says. You glance over. "Who are they?" "Railwaymen," he replies. "They've been coming by all week, looking for navvies, laborers to dig, haul, and build the new line out of Paddington. Hard work, dangerous, but steady." "Steady?" you echo. The word feels strange on your tongue. Tom nods. 3 shillings a week, they say. And board. That's 36 pennies, lad. More than you'll make here in 9 days. 3 shillings. The number rings in your head like a church bell. You picture it. Enough to buy more than a bed for one night, enough to save, enough to begin. You think they'd take me? You ask quietly. Tom shrugs. They don't care what you look like, only if you can lift and don't die too easy. You've got the arms for it. If they come again tomorrow, make sure they see you. You nod slowly, the thought settling in your mind like an ember catching fire. Railway work. Steady, paid weekly, food included. Dangerous, yes, but everything here is dangerous in its own way. At least this danger promises something in return. The rest of the day passes in a blur of motion. Crates rise and fall, voices shout and fade, and the market breathes its endless rhythm. But your mind keeps drifting, to those men at the edge of the square, to the image of trains carving through green hills far beyond the smoke of London, to the idea of work that doesn't vanish with the sunset. When the foreman calls the end of the shift, he counts 4 pennies into your hand. They feel different today, not just survival but the seed of something larger. Tom slaps your shoulder. Don't waste it all on stew, eh? Save a bit. Tomorrow might be your chance. You smile, faint but real. Tomorrow, you say. As dusk descends and the fog creeps back over the rooftops, you walk from the market with tired legs and a quiet heart. The coins in your pocket jingle softly, keeping time with your footsteps. You pass the coffee house where the printer once sat, his book of poems open in his ink-stained hands. You almost go in, but the thought fades. You already know what he would tell you. Keep moving. Keep saving. Hold on to something. The lamps flicker to life above you, halos in the mist. The streets fill once more with the march of the desperate. Faces you recognize, others you don't. But tonight, as you join their ranks, your pace is different. There's a lightness in your step, small but unmistakable. Because for the first time in weeks, you're walking towards something, not just away. And in Victorian London, that small shift, forward instead of down, feels almost like hope. The next morning breaks with a thin drizzle that feels more like mist than rain. You wake before dawn, unable to sleep, your heart restless in your chest. The idea of railway work has taken hold of you, bright, dangerous, impossible to shake. By the time you reach Covent Garden, the city is still half asleep. Gas lamps hiss in the fog, and the air smells of damp straw and horses. The market, though, never truly rests. Porters trudge through the haze, their boots clapping against the cobbles. Stalls are already being stacked with crates, apples, turnips, cabbages, all the dull green and brown of winter's trade. The foreman spots you and gives a sharp nod. You again. Good. Got a wagon by the arch, same pay, same hours. You nod, falling into rhythm beside Tom. The familiar ache in your shoulders returns, but you hardly notice it. Your eyes keep drifting toward the far side of the square, where a group of strangers stands out against the gray. They're the railway men, you're sure of it. Coats thick with oilskin, boots clean despite the mud. Their hands are rough, but their posture carries something the poor never learn to fake: steadiness. One of them holds a ledger under his arm. He's older, built like a cart horse, with a scar cutting through his beard. Foreman maybe. The others hover close, scanning the workers like buyers at a livestock market. Tom follows your gaze and grins. There they are. Told you they'd come back. You nod, throat dry. Do you think they'll notice me? They notice everything, Tom says. Just work steady. Don't rush. Don't show off. Let them see you're the sort that lasts. So you do. You move with deliberate precision, lift, carry, stack. Not too fast, not too slow. When the foreman shouts, you answer quick. When another man drops his load, you steady it without complaint. You become part of the market's rhythm, invisible yet essential. Hours pass like that. The fog lifts, the sun fights through the clouds, and your breath begins to steam in the cold air. Sweat trickles down your spine. Then it happens. As you set down a crate near the wagon, one of the railway men stops beside you. He watches for a moment, expression unreadable. You looking for steady work, lad? He asks. His voice is deep, roughened by years of shouting over wind and distance. You straighten. Yes, sir. He nods. Railway labor. Hard graft, long hours. 3 shillings a week, paid every Saturday. Bunk and bread provided. Camp moves as the line moves. You in? The words barely sink in before you hear yourself answer. Yes, sir. He studies you a moment longer, then jerks his chin. Paddington Station. West entrance. 5 o'clock sharp tomorrow morning. Ask for Foreman Jenkins. Don't be late, we don't wait. And just like that, he's gone, moving through the crowd, calling to others. You stand there a moment, the world spinning slightly. Tom appears beside you, grinning wide enough to show the missing tooth. Well, look at you. Told you it might happen. You can't find your voice for a moment. The air feels different, thicker, heavier with possibility. It's real then, you manage. As real as the mud on your boots, Tom says. You'll be all right. Works hard, but you've got the back for it. Just remember, pace yourself, save your pay, and don't let them grind you down. The rest of the day passes like a dream. The crates feel lighter, the foreman's bark less sharp. Even the ache in your hands seems distant. You think only of tomorrow, of the train yards, of the open country, of work that doesn't vanish at sundown. When the shift ends, you pocket your 4 pennies one last time. The coins jingle softly, the last earnings of your London life. You find a pump in the alley and wash the dirt from your face, scrubbing with the sliver of soap you've kept wrapped in paper. The water is freezing, but you don't care. You want to look alive when you stand before Foreman Jenkins. As you walk toward the shelter, the fog returns, thick in gold under the lamps. The air smells of rain and coal smoke. Around you, the usual march of the desperate continues, the same faces, the same rhythm. But for once, you don't feel part of it. Not tonight. At the corner, you spot Martha under an awning, her thin shoulders shaking from the cold. She sees you and lifts a hand in greeting. Back again? She calls. Not for long, you reply. Got a place with the railways. Her smile is small but real. Good for you. Keep moving, love. That's the trick of it, never stop. You nod, and as you walk away, her words echo what Tom once said, what the printer once whispered. Keep moving. That night, you don't go to the Coffin house. Instead, you find a cheap coffee stall near the station and sit until the lamps go out, saving your last coin for the morning. The air grows colder, but inside, something warm is burning. Not in your hands, not in your stomach, but deeper. Tomorrow you will leave the city. Tomorrow you will begin again. Paddington Station breathes like a living thing. Steam rolls from the engines, hissing through the air in thick, white clouds that taste of iron and coal. The noise is overwhelming. Whistles, shouts, the clang of metal, the rumble of wheels over rails. For a moment, you stand frozen on the platform, your few belongings wrapped in a small bundle under your arm, watching the great machine of progress exhale before you. It's barely dawn, but the place is alive. Men in coats hurry with ledgers, porters heave trunks, women in bonnets wave handkerchiefs at the windows of waiting trains. The smell of oil, soot, and sweat fills your lungs, harsh but thrilling. But you there. The voice cuts through the noise. You turn to see a heavy-set man with a red scarf and a black beard shot through with gray. He has the kind of presence that makes the crowd shift around him. His left hand grips a clipboard, his right a pipe that's gone cold. Foreman Jenkins, you realize. He looks you over, your patched coat, your cracked boots, the nervous way you clutch your bundle. Name? He asks. You hesitate, then give it. He marks something in his ledger, then grunts. Strong back? No debts? No drink? You nod to all 3, though only 2 are true. Good enough, he says. Get aboard with the others. You'll ride in the freight carriage to Reading. After that, it's on foot to the camp. He turns away before you can thank him. The freight car smells of earth, straw, and the faint sweetness of old apples. A dozen men are already inside, rough hands, hollow eyes, but spirits brighter than yours have been in weeks. They make space for you with nods, the unspoken welcome of those who have nothing left to lose. As the train jerks to life, someone mutters, "Goodbye, London." The words carry a strange reverence, half blessing, half curse. You lean back against the wooden wall as the city begins to slide away. Through the small slit of the carriage door, you watch the fog-drenched streets roll past. The rooftops, the chimneys, the narrow alleys you once slept in. For a moment, you glimpse the spire of St. Paul's rising through the smoke like a ghost. Then it's gone. The rhythm of the train takes over, a heartbeat of steel and distance. Clack, 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 clack. The sound settles into your chest, steady and hypnotic. The man beside you, a wiry fellow with soot already under his fingernails, catches your gaze. First job. You nod. He grins. You'll do fine. Hard work, but the pay's honest. Food's bad, but it's food. And the air out there, he whistles low. Nothing like London. You'll see. Where are we headed, you ask? West, he says simply. Toward Bristol. They're building the line through the hills now. Dangerous ground, landslides, rain, sometimes worse. But it's real work. Men build something here, not just survive. You like the sound of that? Build something. The words feel solid like stones underfoot. The train barrels onward, cutting through the mist. Outside, the landscape changes. The black sprawl of the city gives way to open fields washed in pale winter light. You haven't seen this much sky in months, maybe years. It stretches wide, unbroken, limitless. You rest your head against the wall, the motion of the train rocking you gently. The faces of those you've met drift through your thoughts. Tom's grin, Martha's tired eyes, the printer's book, the boy in the coffin clutching the apple core. They all feel distant now, like lives you once dreamt but never lived. For the first time, you allow yourself to wonder what could come next. A tent, perhaps. A steady wage. Bread every day. Maybe one day enough to buy your own room, a door that locks, a fire that's yours. When the train slows at Reading, the men stir. Jenkins' voice booms down the carriage. Out. Gather your things. We march the rest of the way. The platform smells of rain and damp wood. The town itself is quiet, a scattering of brick buildings, a church spire, smoke drifting from chimneys. Beyond it, open land stretches westward, threaded with scaffolding, ropes, and heaps of earth where the railway is slowly carving through the hills. You hoist your bundle and follow the line of men along the muddy track. Boots squelch in rhythm. The sky above is wide and gray, streaked with light. Each step feels like leaving something behind. The hunger, the cold, the city that watched but never cared. The road climbs gently upward. Wind moves through the fields, clean and sharp. And as you walk, a thought rises quiet and clear. Maybe this isn't the end of your story. Maybe it's the first page that truly belongs to you. By dusk, you reach the ridge where the railway men have made their camp. The hill slopes down into a valley of half-built embankments, timber scaffolds, and pits of raw earth. Smoke rises from a dozen small fires, curling against the low, heavy sky. The air smells of wet clay and sweat and coal dust. A different kind of London, one made of mud instead of brick. Welcome to the line, someone mutters as you trudge in. The camp is a sprawl of canvas tents and crude wooden huts, patched together with tar and rope. Men move through the mud like ghosts, their clothes soaked, faces blackened with soot. You hear laughter somewhere deep in the camp. Rough, tired, almost bitter. Foreman Jenkins stands near the largest fire, his red scarf easy to spot even in the gloom. Right, listen up, he bellows. You'll get your pay Saturdays. You'll get stew when the pot's full and not before. You work when I say, you stop when I say. Any man found drunk or thieving will find his way back to London faster than the train will carry him. Understood. A low rumble of assent rolls through the group. Jenkins points at a cluster of empty tents near the far edge. You five, there. Rest while you can. We start before sunrise. Tools in the shed, picks and spades by the ditch. You nod along with the others. Your boots squelch as you cross the mud. Inside the tent, it's darker than night itself, smelling of damp wool and unwashed clothes. For other men are already settling in, silent, slow, each collapsing onto the straw-stuffed ground sheet as though sleep were a kind of surrender. You sit in the corner, unwrapping your small bundle. A bit of bread from the journey, a sliver of cheese, and the scrap of cloth Tom once gave you to bind your hands. You run your fingers over it, remembering the rhythm of Covent Garden, the laughter, the city's strange pulse. Out here there's no pulse. Only wind. A voice breaks the quiet. First day. You look up. Across from you sits a broad-shouldered man with a scar down his jaw and a gaze that might once have been kind. Yes, you say. He nods. It'll break you before it feeds you. But you'll learn the pace. We all did. I can work, you answer. He chuckles softly. We all thought that too. Then the hills taught us different. He offers his hand. Name's Carter. Been here since August. Lost 2 mates to a landslip last month. 1 to fever. Still here though. You shake his hand. His grip is strong, but there's something weary beneath it. Like the strength comes from habit, not hope. Eat, he says. Then sleep. You'll need it. You finish your bread and lie down, wrapping your coat around you. The sound of the wind outside feels endless, dragging through the tents like an old tune. Through a tear in the canvas, you see flashes of orange light from the fires, silhouettes of men standing, talking, their faces half lit by flame. One drinks straight from a bottle, another sharpens his spade against a stone. They look like soldiers at the edge of a forgotten war. You close your eyes. The ground beneath you is cold, damp, but solid. You tell yourself that's enough. Sleep comes slow. When it does, it's shallow and full of dreams. The rumble of trains, the hiss of steam, Tom's voice shouting through the fog. And beneath it all, the low hum of iron and earth, the pulse of the railway, the sound of something vast being born through pain. You wake once in the night to a storm rolling over the hills. Rain drums against the tent, sharp as gravel. Someone curses in their sleep. Another man, maybe Carter, hums a few bars of an old hymn, his voice low but steady. You listen, half asleep, to the melody, rough, cracked, but comforting. And in that moment, soaked to the bone and shivering, you feel the faintest flicker of belonging. Not to the place, but to the struggle itself. When the wind finally dies and the night settles back into silence, you whisper the words to yourself. Still here. And somehow that feels like victory. The bell clangs before dawn. It doesn't ring so much as command, a sound that cuts through the valley and the marrow of every sleeping man. You jolt awake to the voice of Jenkins bellowing through the storm-thick air. Tools ready. The line won't build itself. Rain still lingers from the night before, the world outside the tent a mire of mud and mist. You push yourself upright, every bone stiff. Carter's already on his feet, fastening his coat. Best get used to that bell, he mutters. It'll be your church bell, your dinner bell, and your funeral bell before long. Outside, the camp shivers to life. Men cough, curse, stretch, piss into puddles. Someone kicks over a bucket, and the sound of laughter, hard and dry, follows. The fire's been relit, its smoke rising straight up into the morning fog. You line up with the others near the tool shed, where a boy barely 16 hands out picks and shovels. Each handle is slick from years of sweat. Jenkins stands nearby, pipe in his mouth, rain dripping off his hat brim. Listen close, he says, his voice carrying over the wind. We're cutting through that ridge today. Keep your heads down, don't wander near the slope, and if the earth starts to move, run. We've lost enough men this month. A few men nod. Others just stare blankly as if the warning were as common as breakfast. You shoulder your spade and follow the crew up the hill. The ground sucks at your boots, thick and cold. By the time you reach the ridge, your hands are already numb. The work begins. The first blow of the pick shocks through your arms like lightning. The earth here is heavy, full of rock and clay, stubborn as bone. Each swing is a battle. The rain makes the soil slick, the air heavy. Within minutes, your back aches, your breath comes ragged. But you keep going. Around you, the line of men moves in rhythm. Pick, shovel, lift, dump. The sound merges with the rain, the groan of ropes, the crack of wood under strain. Somewhere down the slope, a horse neighs, frightened by the echo of blasting powder from another crew. Carter works beside you, silent except for the occasional grunt. He's fast, frighteningly so, his arms moving with machine precision. Don't race me, he says between breaths. Find your pace or you'll be coughing blood by noon. You do as he says. You find the rhythm, slower, steady, painful but sustainable. The spade bites, lifts, empties. Over and over. Hours blur into one another, measured only by the ache in your shoulders and the deepening mud beneath your boots. By midday, the bell rings again. The men drop their tools where they stand as though gravity itself commanded it. A pot of stew waits by the fire, thin, gray, steaming faintly. You cue with the other's bowl in hand. The first bite burns your tongue. It tastes of salt, onion, and something you can't name. It's terrible, but it's food. The warmth floods through you like a prayer answered. Across the fire, Carter eats in silence. Then, almost absently, he says, "You'll dream about the sound tonight." The picks. Once it gets in your head, it never leaves. He's right. Even as you eat, you can still hear it, thunk, 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 the rhythm of labor, of endurance, of survival. After the break, Jenkins orders you back to the ridge. The clouds have thickened again, heavy with rain. The air hums with the low promise of thunder. Then, without warning, the earth shifts. It's subtle at first, a tremor underfoot, a slide of pebbles down the slope. Then the sound comes, a low, groaning roar as the ridge begins to give way. Move, someone shouts. Men scatter. Mud and stone crash down, swallowing tools and shouts alike. You stumble backward, slipping in the muck. Carter grabs your arm, yanking you clear just as the ground collapses where you'd stood. A wall of brown water and clay rushes past, carrying with it a broken wheelbarrow and someone's boot. When the noise finally dies, the world is still again, except for the rain. No one speaks for a long moment. Jenkins arrives, red scarf soaked, his face pale with fury. "Who was on the edge?" he demands. "Who ignored the line marker?" No one answers. The silence feels heavier than the mud. Then a shout rises from below. "There's one down here." The men scramble. You follow without thinking. A young laborer lies half buried, his leg twisted under a mound of earth. He's alive barely. Together you dig him free, your hands raw and shaking. By the time they carry him back to camp, dusk has fallen again. You sit by the fire, your body trembling, not from cold but from the knowledge of how close the earth came to taking you too. Carter passes you his tin cup of tea. "Welcome to the line," he says quietly. You take a sip. The tea tastes of smoke and metal. And though you've never felt more exhausted, you realize something new has settled inside you. Not fear, not pride, but a grim understanding. The line isn't just built with sweat. It's built with pieces of the men who dig it. And tomorrow you'll pick up your spade again. Because here work is not a choice. It's the only thing that keeps you from disappearing. The storm breaks before dawn. It begins as a whisper on the canvas, a soft patter, then grows into a relentless drumming that swallows every other sound. The tent quivers under the wind. Water seeps through the seams, trickling down the straw floor, soaking everything you own. By the time Jenkins's bell rings, half the camp is already awake. Men curse as they pull on wet clothes and stumble into the gray morning. The world outside looks half drowned. You join the line trudging toward the ridge, the rain biting like gravel against your face. Every breath tastes of mud. The sky is a single sheet of colorless iron, pressing low on the world. No one speaks. There's nothing to say. You take your place beside Carter, who grunts a greeting. The ground has turned to soup, every step a struggle to stay upright. Jenkins's voice carries faintly through the rain. "Same section. Keep the drainage trench clear or we'll lose half the embankment." So you dig, and dig, and dig. Within minutes, the cold has numbed your fingers. Water pours down the slope, filling the trenches as fast as you can empty them. The mud grabs at your boots, your arms ache, and the rain stings your eyes. Time stops meaning anything. There's only motion, swing, scoop, lift, dump, and the sound of rain hammering the world flat. Then, somewhere through the roar, comes something unexpected. A voice. Low at first, almost swallowed by the storm. Then stronger, deeper, carrying through the downpour like a bell through fog. You glance up. A few yards away, an old man stands knee-deep in the mud, still working his shovel, but he's singing. His beard is white, his cap pulled low, his shoulders trembling with effort. Yet his voice rises, rich and steady, filling the valley. The song isn't cheerful. It's too old for that. A slow ballad, half prayer, half memory. You can't catch every word, but the melody winds through the rain like a lifeline. Carter notices too. He pauses, listening, then shakes his head in disbelief. "That's old Daniels," he mutters. "Been singing that song since the Irish line." Says he sings to keep the rain from taking him. You watch Daniels. His shovel moves with mechanical grace. Every stroke seems timed to the rhythm of his song. Around him, the other men begin to match his pace without realizing it. Their movements syncing with the tune, their exhaustion bending into something that almost looks like endurance. The song grows louder. "By hammer and by spade we bind the land. The earth our mother, the stone our hand. We build the path we'll never ride. We dig our graves and stand with pride." The words cut through you. "We build the path we'll never ride." You think of all the faces you've seen since London. William coughing in the sit-up, Martha selling her ring, the toothless boy, Tom with his easy grin. None of them will ever ride these rails. They build the empire, but it will never carry them. Still Daniel sings. Even Jenkins stops yelling orders for a while, letting the rhythm carry the work. The rain doesn't ease, but somehow it feels less cruel. At midday, when the stew is passed around, Daniel sits on a rock under a makeshift awning, steam rising from his coat. You sit nearby, curious. "Sir," you begin, uncertain how to address a man like him. "That song, where did it come from?" He chuckles, showing a row of worn teeth. "From the road, lad. From every place men sweat more than they earn. You hear it on every line from Kent to Cardiff. Changes a bit each time, like a stream finned in new banks." You nod slowly. "It helps." He shrugs. What? Helps remind you you're still alive. The rain's got a way of making men forget that. He dips his bread into the stew, then glances sideways. You sing, boy? You almost laugh. No. Then start. Don't matter if it's good. Voice keeps the soul from drowning. After the break, the work continues, but something has changed. A few men hum under their breath. One whistles. Another taps his shovel like a drum. The sound of labor becomes music in its own rough way, a rhythm against despair. By dusk, the ridge is stable again. The trench holds. The worst of the storm passes. That night, back in the tent, you lie awake listening to the last drops of rain tapping the canvas. Your muscles scream, your hands bleed, but your mind is strangely quiet. You find yourself humming Danielle's song, softly to no one but yourself. We build the path we'll never ride. The words feel different in your mouth. Not hopeless now, just honest. And in the quiet that follows, you realize, hope doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it just hums in the dark and waits for morning. All day the sky feels wrong. The clouds hang lower than usual, heavy, unmoving, a lid pressed over the world. The men sense it before anyone says a word. Their jokes die faster, their rhythm falters. Even Jenkins, usually shouting before sunrise, keeps glancing toward the ridge like a man listening for something he can't name. You and Carter are assigned to the upper trench, clearing the last section before dark. The air smells of wet stone and iron. Mud clings to everything, your boots, your sleeves, your thoughts. By late afternoon, the light turns copper. The sun bleeds through the clouds like a dying ember. The ridge looms above, carved and trembling from weeks of rain. Carter squints upward. She's heavy today, he mutters. You nod, though you're not sure what he means until the ground gives its first warning. A sound like a sigh, deep and long, rolling through the soil. Keep digging. Jenkins yells. We need the channel clear before nightfall. You obey, though the air feels thick with unease. The pickaxe bites, lifts, releases. Every blow sends a shiver up your arms. The world smells of rain and rust and something else. Fear. Then it happens. The sound sharp and terrible. A crack like the splitting of the world. Move. Carter shouts. You drop your tool and run, boots slipping on the wet ground. Behind you, the ridge explodes into motion. Tons of earth cascading down in a roaring wave. The noise drowns everything. Men scream, vanish, reappear in clouds of dirt. You dive behind a timber support as the slide hits, the impact shaking the ground like thunder. Mud and stones slam against your back. You taste blood, iron grit. Then silence, not real silence, but the stunned absence of sound after violence. You open your eyes. The world has changed shape. The trench is gone, buried. The air is thick with dust. Somewhere, someone is crying out, a sound that begins human but ends in a rattle. You crawl free, gasping. The timber beside you has splintered clean through. Jenkins's red scarf lies tangled in the mud, torn loose from his neck. Carter staggers past, half blind with dirt. Help me, he shouts. There's men under. You grab a shovel and follow him to where the earth still shifts and groans. Together, you dig, hands raw, nails splitting, the mud sucking at every movement. Others join in. Daniels, the old singer, his voice hoarse now, no song left, just gritted breath and muttered prayers. A boot appears first, then a leg, then the lifeless weight of a man you don't recognize. You dig again, faster, as if the act itself could undo what's happened. By the time darkness falls, 5 bodies lie wrapped in tarpaulin near the fire. Jenkins is not among them. The survivors sit in silence, steam rising from their soaked clothes. Someone whispers the names of the dead, one by one. Carter stares at the flames like he's trying to burn the memory out of his mind. Danielle's hands shake as he wipes the mud from his beard. You sit apart, shivering. The rain starts again, soft this time, a thin drizzle that feels almost gentle. It streaks the dirt from your face but can't wash away the image of the ridge collapsing. Jenkins's red scarf still lies near the trench, half buried, waving weakly in the wind. You pick it up, wring the mud from it, and drape it over a timber post. A marker, a kind of grave for the man who barked orders and kept you alive longer than you realized. Carter joins you. He was a bastard, he says quietly, but he didn't deserve that. You nod. Neither of you speak for a while. The campfire pops. The wind hums through the scaffold. Somewhere down the valley, a train whistles faintly, a sound so far away it feels unreal. Finally, Carter sighs. They'll send more men next week. Fill the gaps. Same as always. Do you ever get used to it? You ask. He shakes his head. No. You just stop expecting anything different. He walks away, leaving you with the scarf fluttering in the rain. You stand there a long time, the mud cooling around your boots, the memory of the collapse replaying behind your eyes, the roar, the weight, the helplessness. When you finally return to your tent, you lie awake, staring at the torn canvas roof. The song from yesterday drifts faintly through your thoughts, but now it sounds different, broken, unfinished. We build the path we'll never ride. The line echoes until sleep takes you, not deep, not peaceful, but full of falling earth and the red flash of a scarf in the dark. Morning comes gray and hollow. The storm has passed, but its silence is heavier than the thunder that came before. The ridge stands still again, reshaped, raw, scarred. Smoke from the campfire drifts upward, straight as a prayer too tired to rise. No one speaks much. Every man moves slower than usual, their bodies working out of habit more than will. The work must go on, Jenkins would have said that, and so it does. By noon, the company clerk arrives from the nearest town. A thin man in a bowler hat, with ink stains on his fingers and no mud on his shoes. He doesn't look at the bodies laid out by the trench. He just counts them, writes in his ledger, and says, "The company will note the loss. If any had family, their pay will be forwarded." Then he leaves. The men watch him go, the sound of hooves fading into the hills. That night, the fire burns brighter than usual, not from warmth, but ritual. Someone suggests writing letters. For the ones that didn't make it, Carter says. So someone somewhere might know their names. Daniels nods. Even if no one ever reads M. Scraps of paper are passed around, torn pages from ledgers, bits of packaging, the backs of old wage slips. You take one too, though your hand trembles as you hold the stub of a pencil. For a long time you just stare at the blank space. You've no one to write to. No home, no kin who'd remember your face. But the others have already begun, their heads bent toward the firelight, their lips moving as they whisper words into being. You start writing anyway. To whoever might find this, you begin. My name isn't important. I worked the line near Reading where the ridge fell. I'm still alive, though 5 others aren't. If anyone asks, tell them they worked hard. Tell them the ground took them quick. Tell them we tried to dig them free. The pencil shakes. You stop for a moment, watching the light flicker across the ink-blackened faces around you. Daniels hums quietly under his breath, a tune without words. You keep writing. If there's a God, I hope he keeps them warmer than we could. And if he's got mercy left, maybe he'll remember the rest of us too. The paper is damp by the time you finish. You fold it carefully, place it near the fire to dry. Across from you, Carter is writing his own. His brow furrows as he speaks softly to the page. To Ellen, if this reaches you, I'm sorry. You look away. There's something sacred about that kind of confession. Words not meant for anyone else. One by one the men finish. Some place their letters in a tin box, to be sent if anyone from the company ever bothers. Others tuck them into their jackets, as if keeping the words close might guard them from the same fate as the dead. You keep yours in your pocket. Not for sending, but for remembering. Later, as the fire burns low, Daniels begins to speak. His voice is rough, cracked from years of shouting against wind and stone. First time I saw a man die, he says, wasn't on the line, was in a field. Same look though, like the earth just decided it was hungry again. No one interrupts. The only sounds are the fire popping and the wind whispering through the grass. Back then, Daniels continues, we thought we were building something that'd last forever. Bridges, rails, tunnels. But look at us, we're the ghosts that build the bones of the world and no one will ever know our names. He stares into the flames, eyes reflecting the gold. Still, better to be a ghost that builds than one that begs. Carter murmurs, aye to that. You think of London, the penny sit-up, the 2-penny hangover, the 4-penny coffin. The smell of unwashed bodies, the shiver of nights spent waiting for dawn. The ridge may kill, but it also remembers. Each mark of the shovel is proof that you were here. That you lived, if only for a while, in the world that keeps turning. When the fire dies, you lie in the dark with your letter against your chest. The paper crackles softly with each breath. You imagine it carried by the wind someday, through the towns, over the rails you helped build, maybe all the way back to the city. Maybe it will land in the gutter outside Covent Garden, where some boy will pick it up and read your words aloud, not understanding but feeling the weight of them. And maybe that will be enough. Maybe remembrance doesn't need a name. Maybe surviving another day is the only letter that ever truly reaches anyone. 3 days after the collapse, he arrives. You hear the carriage before you see it, the rhythmic clop of hooves against the hardened mud, a sound too precise, too polished for this place. The men look up from their work, their faces streaked with soot and rain, as the dark shape rolls into camp. A tall man steps out, dressed in a black coat with silver buttons that shine like coins. His boots are spotless, his gloves new. The only thing older than his clothes is his expression, calm, practiced, and entirely untouched by the filth around him. "Gentlemen," he says, adjusting his hat. "I am Mr. Henley, representing the Great Western Railway Company." No one answers. The only sound is the wind cutting through the valley. Henley surveys the camp, the ruined ridge, the half-finished embankment, the makeshift graves by the fire. His gaze lingers a moment on the tarp-covered mounds, then moves on as though they were tools left in the rain. "I understand," he begins, "there was an unfortunate incident." Carter mutters something under his breath that sounds like a curse. Henley continues, unbothered. The company extends its condolences. A sum of £1 per man lost will be issued to next of kin, where such can be identified. £1 for 5 men, for 5 lives. Daniel spits into the mud. £1 buys a coffin, sir. Maybe. Henley's jaw tightens. The company is not responsible for acts of God, mister? Daniels, he replies flatly. And that wasn't God, sir. That was rain and bad drainage. Henley ignores the remark. Nevertheless, the line must continue. London expects progress. Investors expect progress. So do we. He pauses, then adds, "That's why I'm here, to offer new contracts." Murmurs ripple through the men. "Anyone who wishes to remain employed," Henley says, "will sign here." He opens a leather folder, revealing neat stacks of parchment, crisp, white, and as lifeless as bone. Rates will increase by a halfpenny per hour for the remainder of the project. A fair adjustment given recent difficulties. Carter laughs once bitterly. "Half a penny to bury your mates and keep digging?" Henley's eyes narrow. "I'd remind you, Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, that there are hundreds of men in London who'd take your place by morning." He's right. You all know it. Every man here has stood on that street corner once, waiting, hoping, starving. Henley senses the silence and smiles faintly. "Of course you're free to leave. But those who stay will have steady pay, food, and shelter. The company looks after its men." The words taste like ash. When he leaves his folder on the table and retreats to his carriage, the men crowd around the papers. Some stare at the lines of ink as if they might bite. Others sign immediately, quick, shaking marks made by hands too tired to argue. Carter folds his arms, looking to you. "You signing?" You stare at the blank space beside the word laborer. The ink pot trembles in the wind. Part of you wants to walk away, to leave the mud, the graves, the endless clang of picks in the rain. You've saved enough for a ticket back to London. You could find other work. Lighter, safer, cleaner. But you remember Danielle's words. Better to be a ghost that builds than one that begs. You take the pen. The nib scratches faintly against the paper. Your name looks small, crooked, barely yours. But it's there. Carter shakes his head, half amused, half admiring. "You've got more hope than sense." "Maybe," you say quietly, "but hope's lighter to carry." When Henley returns, his eyes flick over the signatures. "Good men," he says simply, gathering the papers. "The company appreciates loyalty." He steps back into his carriage. As it rolls away, its wheels throw mud onto his boots, the only stain he'll take from this place. You watch the carriage disappear into the dusk, its polished frame shrinking down the hill until it's nothing but a glint of light. Behind you, Carter pokes at the dying fire. "Half a penny more," he mutters, "for what we lost." You glance at the ridge, the raw scar of earth, still streaked with rain. "For what we'll build," you say, though your voice doesn't sound convinced. Night comes early. The men drift to their tents, one by one, silent as ghosts. You sit alone for a while, the contract folded in your pocket, its edges sharp against your leg. The fire crackles low, the wind whispering through the broken scaffold above. You think of the word Henley used, progress. And you wonder, not for the first time, who exactly it's meant to save. The morning the train comes, the fog is so thick it swallows sound. It hangs over the valley like wool, soft and suffocating. The ridge, the scaffolds, even the campfire are blurred outlines in a world made of breath and silence. For a moment you think the world itself has stopped moving. Then comes the whistle. A long, hollow note that pierces the mist and sets the air trembling. Every man on the line looks up. Hammers stop mid-swing, picks hang motionless in the air. The sound isn't loud, it's deep, like something ancient waking under the earth. Carter wipes his hands on his trousers. "That'll be her," he mutters. "The company's showpiece." Daniels chuckles weakly beside him. "All this for a few fine gentlemen to take a ride through the mud we built." You don't answer. You're watching the mist shift, feeling the vibration through the soles of your boots before you see anything at all. Then it appears, a shadow first, then a gleam of brass, then the great black engine itself rolling out of the fog like a living beast. Steam pours from its flanks, mingling with the morning mist until the world feels made of smoke and breath and awe. The men step back instinctively, forming a line along the edge of the track. Some smile. Some just stare, hollow-eyed, too tired to decide how they feel. You've seen carriages before, but not like this. The brass trim shines like sunlight trapped in metal, the paint so dark it drinks the light around it. You catch glimpses of people inside. Gentlemen in hats, women in gloves, faces pale and distant behind glass. They look out at the line without seeing it, without seeing you. For them, this is progress. Comfort. Speed. A new world. For you, it's the end of a road built by hand, one spade at a time. The engine roars as it passes, the heat of it hitting your face, the hiss of steam like a sigh of relief, or maybe of exhaustion. Every wheel screams against the track, sparks flying, the smell of oil and metal and triumph filling the air. Daniel starts humming under his breath, the same tune he sang in the rain. By hammer and by spade we bind the land, the earth our mother, the stone our hand. This time his voice breaks halfway through the verse. You realize he's crying, though he doesn't stop working the melody through his throat, soft and trembling. Carter lowers his head. "That's it then," he says quietly. "All our work and not a seat for any of us." You nod. The train vanishes into the fog, the sound of its wheels fading into the distance. A heartbeat slowing, dying, gone. Silence again. Except now the silence feels different. Bigger. Like something's missing that was once alive. The men drift back to their work without speaking. You stay for a moment longer, staring down the track. The iron rails stretch away into the mist, straight and endless, like the spine of something you helped awaken but can never tame. In the distance, faint and unreal, the whistle sounds again. Softer now, a ghost of its first cry. You imagine it running across the country, through towns and valleys, carrying people who will never think about the men who laid its bones in the mud. They'll eat, talk, laugh, look out the window at the hills, never knowing each inch of that ground was once a graveyard of effort and hope. You kneel, pressing your palm against the rail. It's warm, humming faintly, alive. For a moment, it feels like it's breathing. And you whisper, "Go on then. Run fast. Don't forget us." When you rise, the fog is thinning. The first light of day filters through, soft and colorless. Around you, the men have already gone back to lifting and carrying, reshaping the world one blow at a time. You join them. There's nothing else to do. But inside, something has shifted. The train's passing has left behind both emptiness and proof that you were part of something vast, that your hands helped carve a scar across the land that will outlast you all. As you raise your spade again, you realize, this is what survival looks like. Not glory, not wealth. Just the quiet certainty that what you built will remain even if your name never will. Winter came quietly at first. A thin frost on the tents. A stillness in the air that silenced even the crows. Then one morning the world woke under a sheet of white. Snow had fallen in the night, soft, deceptive, and deadly. It blanketed the valley, muffling every sound, making the camp look almost peaceful. Almost. You step outside your tent and the air cuts your lungs. Each breath feels like swallowing glass. The hills you once dug are now shapeless mounds, the tools buried beneath drifts of snow. The track gleams faintly under the pale sun, rails rimmed with ice, a frozen artery through the dead heart of winter. Carter joins you, stamping his feet, his breath turning to steam. "She's a cruel season," he mutters. "But the company won't wait for spring." He's right. Within the hour, the bell rings. Jenkins's replacement, A younger man named Briggs with a voice like iron on stone calls the roll. No excuses. The work doesn't freeze. Men move slowly, hunched and shivering. Gloves stiff with frost. Fingers numb. Pickaxes swing weaker. Shovels clatter dull against the ground that's turned to stone. The sound of effort fills the air, mingling with the wind, a chorus of survival. By midday, the snow begins again. Big, heavy flakes that fall without hurry, as if time itself has slowed to watch you suffer. Daniels coughs between every swing of his spade. This cold, he says, gets into the bones and stays there. You nod, unable to speak. Your lips are cracked, bleeding. Someone slips and falls down the embankment. Another's hand splits open on frozen metal. The camp medic, really just an older laborer with a bottle of spirits and a strip of cloth, does what he can, but it's little. The company sends no doctor. The line can't stop, Briggs keeps saying. Progress waits for no man. By nightfall, the fire is your only world. You and a handful of others huddle around it, faces ghostly in the flickering orange light. The stew is thinner than ever, mostly water and memories of meat. Daniel sits close, his breath shallow. His voice is barely a whisper now. Used to think men like us built the future, he says. Now I think we just keep it warm for the ones who'll come after. Carter passes him his share of bread. Eat, he says softly. Daniel shakes his head. Keep it. You've got years left in you. But Carter presses it into his hands anyway, and Daniels takes it, breaking it in half to share with the man beside him. Then we both live another night, he says. The gesture ripples through the circle. A flask passed around. A crust of bread broken 3 ways. A scrap of tobacco shared in silence. No one talks about the cold anymore. You all know it's not just in the air, it's in your blood, your bones, the cracks of your hands. But the fire, small as it is, fights back. You find yourself humming, softly, almost without knowing. Daniels looks up, eyes tired but curious. Your turn, is it? He rasps. You nod. The tune is simple, something you half remember from a church long gone. A lullaby, maybe. Your voice trembles at first, then steadies, finding rhythm in the crackle of the flames. One by one, the others join in. Not with words, just low hums, a harmony born of breath and need. For a few minutes, the camp doesn't feel like a graveyard of forgotten men. It feels human. When the song fades, Daniel smiles faintly. Keep singing when I'm gone, he murmurs. The cold can't stand a tune. You want to answer, but your throat closes. That night, the temperature drops even lower. The wind screams across the hills like a living thing. You sleep sitting up, your blanket stiff with frost. At dawn, you wake to find Daniel still beside the fire, still, quiet, his hand outstretched toward the embers. The others don't speak. They just pull the blanket gently over him. Carter whispers, "We'll keep the song, old man." You go to work that morning in silence, breath fogging the air. Each strike of the shovel feels heavier, lonelier. But the tune lingers in your head, steady as the rhythm of the picks. And when the sun breaks weakly through the clouds, glinting on the frozen rails, you realize the line is no longer just made of iron. It's made of memory, of hands and hunger and a song sung against the cold. The snow begins to melt in March. It doesn't vanish all at once, just recedes quietly like a secret slipping out of sight. The hills bleed back into color, gray stone, brown mud, a hesitant green. The air smells different now, damp, alive, uncertain. For the first time in months, you hear birds again. Their songs sound strange against the hammering of tools and the scrape of shovels, as if the world above has forgotten the one below. The thaw brings with it something else, a letter. Briggs gathers the men at the fire one morning, holding a folded paper sealed with wax. From headquarters, he says. His voice is cold, but there's a hint of fatigue behind it. This section's complete. You'll get your final wages this week. The company's moving operations west. A silence follows. It isn't surprise. You all knew it was coming. The work always moves on. That's what the railway is. A road that never stays still, always consuming the horizon. Carter spits into the dirt. And us. Briggs shrugs. You can sign on for the next line if you want, or find your own way. Either way, the company thanks you for your service. The word thanks sounds hollow, like an echo in an empty tunnel. After he leaves, the men break apart in small groups. Some cheer, new work means new pay. Others just sit, staring into the valley that has been both their prison and their home. Carter finds you by the water barrel, filling his tin cup. "Well, that's it," he says. "You going west?" You hesitate. The question hits deeper than it should. Months ago you would have said yes without thinking. More work, more coins, more survival. But now, something inside you resists. Your eyes drift toward the ridge, the place where the earth once collapsed, where Jenkins and Daniels fell, where the old red scarf still hangs on a timber post, tattered but untouched. The snow around it has melted first, leaving a ring of exposed ground as if the earth itself remembers. "I don't know," you say quietly. Carter studies you for a moment. "You've got that look," he says. "Same one I had my first year. You're thinking of stopping." You smile faintly. "Maybe. For a while." He nods slowly, not judging. "Can't blame you. City's rough, but it's got its comforts. Beds, bread that's not gray, faces that change." He takes a long sip of water, then adds, "If you go back to London, keep walking past the markets. Don't stop till you find somewhere clean enough to smell like soap. Rent a room. Even a small one. Once you've got a door of your own, you start feeling human again." You remember his words for later. That night, as the men drink and sing their last songs around the fire, the camp feels different. Not lighter, just looser, like the knots holding it together have finally begun to untie. You sit apart, watching the flames lick upward. Daniels would have liked this night. Warmth, laughter, the illusion of peace. Carter joins you, holding 2 tin cups. He passes one your way. The liquid burns down your throat. Cheap gin, strong enough to remind you you're alive. "To the line," he says, raising his cup. You clink it against his. "To the ghosts," you reply. He grins. "Same thing in the end." The next morning, you pack what little you own. A spare shirt, a scrap of soap, the folded letter you once wrote to no one, and a handful of coins wrapped in cloth. The red scarf still flutters on its post as you pass. You pause, touch the fabric. The wind catches it, brushing your hand like a farewell. When the wagon bound for London rattles past the ridge, you climb aboard. The road curves downward, the valley falling away behind you. For a while, you can still see the glint of the rails through the mist, 2 lines of silver cutting through the thawing world. You watch until they vanish. The man driving the wagon hums a tune under his breath, something old and tired but not sad. Reminds you of Daniels. You lean back against the wooden boards, the rhythm of the wheels steady beneath you. Ahead lies the city, its smoke, its crowds, its promises. You left it as a beggar. You return as something else. Not richer, not safer, but forged, shaped by the cold and the earth and the song of men who worked until they disappeared. For the first time in a long time, you feel the faint, improbable pull of something like hope. Not the loud, foolish kind that shouts of better days, but the quiet kind that lives in your chest and says you're still here. And that, you realize, is enough. London smells the same. Coal smoke, horse sweat, and the sour tang of the river. The city hasn't changed. Only you have. As the wagon rolls through the outer districts, you recognize streets you once walked half-starved and invisible. The same vendors shout from corners, the same church bells toll through the fog, the same gray sprawl stretches as far as the eye can see. Yet something is different. You can see it now not as a trap, but as a tide, endless, dangerous, but moving. You step off the wagon at the edge of Bermondsey, your boots striking cobblestone instead of mud. The air feels heavier here, thicker with life. You shoulder your small bundle and walk, weaving through crowds that barely notice you. A month's pay from the railway sits safe in your pocket, a fortune compared to the days when a penny meant shelter. The city welcomes no one, but it allows the persistent to slip between its cracks. You pass Covent Garden again by afternoon. The market hums with familiar music, vendors shouting, wheels creaking, children darting between crates. For a moment, you just stand there, watching. You spot a new foreman by the wagons, barking orders the same way Jenkins once did. Another man carries crates with the same tired grace you remember. The rhythm of it all feels eternal. Carter was right. Life goes on, with or without you. You find a cheap lodging house on a narrow street south of the river. The woman who runs it eyes you warily until you hand her a silver coin in advance. Her tone softens. Second floor, last room on the right. Breakfast, bread and tea. Supper, if you're lucky, stew. The room is small but clean. A real bed, a wash basin, a window that looks out over chimney tops. You set your bundle down and sit on the edge of the mattress. It dips under your weight, soft, yielding. The noise of the street below rises up. the chatter of people, the rattle of carriages, the hum of a world that never sleeps. You breathe in slowly. For the first time in years, the air doesn't taste of fear. As dusk falls, you walk. Your legs carry you without plan, only memory. Past the old church where charity lines once formed. Past the alley where you slept through a winter storm. Past the entrance of the four-penny Coffin house, still standing, still full, men already queuing for the night. One of them catches your eye, young, thin, hollow-faced. You see yourself in him just as you were months ago. He looks down, ashamed to be seen. You step forward, pressing a few coins into his hand before he can speak. "Get a bed tonight," you say quietly. He blinks, confused. "Why?" "Because you'll need your strength tomorrow," you reply. He nods slowly. The gratitude in his eyes feels heavier than the coins. You turn away before he can thank you. The fog thickens as night settles. You wander toward the river where the lamps shimmer on the water like scattered gold. Bridges stretch across the Thames, iron and stone, the same kind you helped build out there in the hills. You stand on one, feeling the wind whip against your coat. Somewhere out beyond the horizon, trains are running, engines screaming, wheels striking rails you laid with your own hands. People inside their carriages sip tea, read newspapers, make plans. None will think of the men who built the road beneath them. But you know, and that knowing is enough. You take from your pocket the folded letter, the one you wrote that night by the fire, addressed to no one. The paper is soft now, the edges worn. You unfold it and read by lamplight. If anyone asks, tell them we worked hard. Tell them the ground took some of us quick. Tell them we tried. You smile faintly, then tear the letter into small pieces and scatter them into the river. The fragments float for a moment before the current carries them away, toward the docks, the sea, the wide world. When you return to your room, London is sleeping. You light the small candle on the table and sit by the window, watching fog drift over the rooftops. Your reflection looks older, sharper, but alive. You think of Danielle's song, the one that carried you through rain and mud. By hammer and by spade we bind the land. You hum it softly. It doesn't sound like morning anymore. It sounds like memory. Outside, a distant train whistle cuts through the night. You close your eyes, listening, not as a laborer this time, but as someone who understands what that sound truly means. Connection, endurance, legacy. Tomorrow you'll find new work. Not digging, maybe at the docks, maybe a warehouse. Something steady. You'll earn enough to keep your room, enough to eat, maybe even enough to save. But tonight, sitting by the candlelight, you let yourself rest. The bed beneath you is warm. The city hums like a great living thing. And for the first time in years, you believe that endurance itself is victory.